Yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to avoid here is just becoming reflexively skeptical, where I just don't trust anything that I read, no matter what, because that way lies madness. So instead, when I say I'm looking for patterns, I'm trying to figure out, like, yeah, what the offsets are, what domains I can trust, and what other domains I have to sort of read conflicting sources to verify. So I'm trying to be a little smarter about how I consume the news, as opposed to like reflexively trusting or reflexively skeptical.
Yeah, because for me, it's maddening where I'm just like, can I just go one place? I don't want to spend all day trying to figure out the truth every day. Just give me the facts of what is actually going on. If it's an op-ed piece, great. I know it's an opinion versus somebody else, a journalist who's writing it and saying this is fact, no, this is incorrect. Versus an op-ed piece. If it says op-ed at the top, I'm all right, great. That is somebody's opinion and I'm in on it. With a podcast, It's the same way.
Right.
I'm not saying what we say every single day is gospel. We're here to give an opinion because that's what podcasts are. And hopefully you align with some of our beliefs or views or guests or whatever it is. But this is all our opinion here. That's why we can get away with what we say. I'm not a real fucking journalist. Not even close. I want to leave that to the professionals, but when the professionals have let us down, then, you're seeking your own truth. And then that's where you get this 50-50 divide on everything across the board. Like you were talking about earlier, politics, religion, race, all of it. Like you get this huge division because nothing you read is believable to one side or the other. Yeah.
Another kind of thought experiment I do when I'm reading a news article, which maybe you guys already do something like this, or maybe it'll be helpful to you to hear it, is I'll ask myself, so I'll take an example, like say there's an article about some tech company being sexist, and the article, tells some anecdotes of women at the tech company who, I don't know, feel they were passed over for promotion due to their sex, or, who encountered some like example of sexual harassment or something like that. I'll ask myself, like, suppose the narrative was false, like suppose this company wasn't any more sexist than any other company. How likely is it that a journalist would have been able to find these anecdotes? And in some cases, I end up concluding, actually, it's not that unlikely that you would be able to find some stories in like a company of thousands of people in which a woman was passed over for promotion, either she feels it was because of her gender, or actually it was because of her gender. And yet that's not necessarily strong evidence that the company is more sexist than any other company, just because if you're looking for those anecdotes, you can find them.
Yeah. Yes. Dan and I chatted about this the other day, and it was regarding the COVID numbers with the new like Delta variant. And they're like, man, 42% of all cases are this Delta variant. Great, but what's the actual number? Because I can't find that in the article.
Well, the coverage from the very beginning of this stuff, it originally went, and they're going to go by whatever number is most frightening to people, right?
Yes, yes.
The first number was the infection rate, or the number of infections. Then it went to the rate of increase of infections, and then it went back to the number of infections, and then it started with deaths. And then when the deaths weren't as much as they wanted, it was the increase of deaths week over week, percentage-wise or number-wise, whichever was bigger, right? And then it went back to the number of infections. Right now, you don't hear anything about deaths or hospitalizations. So if you read CNN today, and any of their Delta or
so whatever, I did, which is why I brought this up. Yeah, I was reading that today.
Yeah, they won't mention hospitalizations unless it's a percentage increase in a very specific, like all these places have increases. The one that CNN wrote this, I think yesterday, it said that these 40-some cities, mostly in the South, who have lower vaccination rates, are experiencing upticks and blah, blah, blah. It gave no real examples of any hospitalization except for one city. And they were, it was like 140 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
And so for what you were saying,
it's kind of ridiculous. It's for anybody that doesn't routinely suspend their disbelief. That is a hard thing to, like, okay, man, it's you're telegraphing your bullshit now. At least try harder to hide it from me.
Yeah. And so when I looked at that number of 40%, like, that's scary and it sounds scary. I had to go through 3 other sources to try to find out what the actual number of infections was. And it was 21,000. I mean, my God, man.
But again, infection versus
38 million people that live in California. It was regarding California.
We don't report on the infection levels of most things because there's no true negative outcome, right? So if they're not reporting on the infection plus the negative outcome, then the infection has no context. To me, at least, it doesn't make any sense. Now, I don't know. I mean, it's obvious. What is it? If it bleeds, it leads. That's their premise over there.
Yeah.
So whatever. What are you gonna do? I mean, it's not just them.
So, yeah.
It's not them.
So like
the
general, like generalizable rule here, I guess, is ask yourself what other, like, there's one number that was reported, presumably because it's, sounds shocking or it fits the narrative or whatever. And then you ask yourself, what are other numbers that they could have reported if those numbers had, been more appealing to them?
Right.
And then check those numbers to see maybe they tell a different story.
Like if there's been 100% increase in infections, it went from 1 to 2. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
right.
The context is important, more so in math than any other field, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But whatever.
Yeah.
We don't care about math in this
Or
country.
like, yeah, another rule that I try to follow when I'm reading statistics reported in the news is just trying to figure out how are they defining this thing? Like, I don't know. An example is I saw an article a couple years ago saying that 10% of UC Berkeley students were homeless in the past year. And so like right away, my a radar started beeping in my head that was like, that seems really high.
Yeah.
That's very high. And so I like followed some links to figure out, well, what do they mean by homeless? And it turned out the definition they were using was if you have stayed with family or friends in the past year, as opposed to, leasing or owning your own place, then you count it as homeless.
Yeah, but the
So
average,
like by that definition, I was homeless after college because I stayed with my parents for a few months before getting a place.
the average American used to move out of their home, their parents' home by 22. Right now, I think the average is 26 and a half.